So yes, Dr. Schwartzman again would say, just give me the age and chief complaint. So aside from the part of the neuraxis that was involved, the part of the nervous system that was involved, what Dr. Schwartzman was trying to get at was the actual mechanism. How was the brain or the nervous system involved? And in terms of mechanisms, the ones that we have to know first and foremost and right away are the emergent mechanisms. And so those are also called the neurological emergencies. I'd like to just go over those real quick. There are 5 that have to do with the brain in short form, and then there are 3 others that are outside of the brain itself. The ones that have to do with the brain, there's first one that's vascular and involves blood vessels. So that would be an acute stroke, a stroke that happened within 4.5 hours of now, or even more. But stroke itself, stroke can be a bleeding stroke or a stroke where the arteries get blocked. So stroke is one of the neurological emergencies, especially a stroke that happened very recently, and that might require intervention like right away. Another neurological emergency is a seizure, especially one that lasts longer than the typical seizure. The typical seizure lasts about 3 minutes or less, but if it lasts longer, then that's what we call status epilepticus, and that's a neurological emergency. Another neurological emergency is an infection. Many infections like encephalitis, meningitis, or even funguses that affect the nervous system, these represent neurological emergencies because they require a certain level of attention, and if we're not giving it, then we have longer damage and more damage to the nervous system than what can be sustained. Another neurological emergency is withdrawal from, let's say, a sedative. If you have withdrawal from a barbiturate, phenobarbital, or benzodiazepine like Xanax, that's a neurological emergency. Toxicity is another neurological emergency, particularly if you're taking like pain medications and antidepressants, toward tramadol, as well as, let's say, an SSRI, citalopram, Zoloft, and then if you add a narcotic with that, occasionally people doesn't mix well, and it can cause problems. So those are the neurological emergencies that have a lot to do with the brain. So we had a vascular one, an infectious one, we had seizure, we had toxicity, and then of course withdrawal. Now, of those that affect parts of the neuraxis outside of the brain, the mechanisms can involve those that affect the spinal cord, like a cord compression from, let's say, a tumor, or a metastatic lesion from a tumor or cancer from outside of the nervous system. Another neurological emergency that affects the nervous system outside of the brain would affect, let's say, the peripheral nerves. This is also known as Guillain-Barre Syndrome, Guillain-Barre Syndrome, GBS, you may have heard of. This requires intervention right away, IV gamma globulin or plasma exchange. And then finally, there's the Myasthenic Crisis that involves the neuromuscular junctions. So with the chief complaint, a person that says, suddenly I dropped my comb, suddenly I started falling, suddenly I started having difficulty talking, over the past day or so I haven't been able to control my bladder, I haven't been able to walk and go upstairs. These are hallmarks of neurological emergencies, and they let us know what part of the nervous system that's involved, and also how that part of the nervous system is involved. And generally, we can understand what the diagnosis is, especially once we confirm with an examination and the appropriate testing. So I'd like to thank Dr. Schwartzman for that teaching.